Welcome to Cultivated Live for No Kidding, Monday, April 1st. I'm Jay Rosenthal. I'm the co-founder of Cultivated Media and the host of Cultivated Live. And since we launched, our goal at Cultivated has been simple: to be cannabis industry professional first, providing the cannabis industry with the most important, insightful, and useful information to our audience. We do that in two key ways right now. We do it through a daily newsletter called Cultivated Daily. You can subscribe to that. There is a link below. We also do this through this daily live stream right here on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So we welcome you here today. And here's what is driving the cannabis news. If you read our newsletter, watch this program, you already know. But today is the day that Germany's cannabis reform measures kick off. Germans today will be allowed to grow cannabis at home and possess cannabis. The more robust, albeit uniquely German approach of cannabis clubs or non-commercial entities where people can purchase cannabis kicks off in July. So if you booked your trip today, you should actually postpone it to July. Now, Steve Rolls from Transform Drug Policy Foundation in the UK wrote in The Guardian that cannabis in Europe is reaching a tipping point and that Britain should be paying attention. Now, from our perspective, calling it a tipping point might be a bit premature, though the evidence is mounting. Yes, Germany has a cannabis reform plan going into effect today, and there are limited legalization plans in Malta and Luxembourg, with other pilot projects in Switzerland and the Netherlands. But the drumbeat for reform is not the same as what's happening here in North America, even in the UK, where a medical cannabis program is active. Estimates suggest that only between 20,000 and 45,000 or so patients have access to medical cannabis. And as we've learned in Europe, like in North America, reform comes slowly, sometimes painfully slow. Here's what's next. Well, we anticipate that all eyes will be on how Germany's legalization light, as Rolls called it in The Guardian. We'll see how that plays out. And if it goes off without a hitch, though, perhaps other countries like the UK will follow. In the meantime, if you're reading this in Germany, good luck during this home growing season. To the White House, where the drumbeat on cannabis reform continues. On Friday, a proclamation acknowledging Second Chance Month. The statement included a mention of cannabis or federal cannabis-related pardons and reforms. Specifically, here's a quote from the statement from the White House. My administration has taken historic steps to end America's failed approach to marijuana. Incarceration for marijuana possession alone has destroyed too many lives, particularly for Black and brown Americans who have been arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at higher rates than other racial and ethnic groups. In 2022, I asked the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to start formally reviewing how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. I have issued categorical pardons for people convicted for simple possession and use under federal and DC law, while urging governors to do the same on the state level. It is simple. No one should be in jail or prison for using or possessing marijuana alone, much the same that he said during his State of the Union, and that is President Biden's words from last week. Paul Armentano from the National Organization of the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML, wrote an op-ed for Marijuana Moment. In the op-ed, Armentano takes direct aim at a trio of recent policy positions put forward by Republicans. The first from former Attorney General Bill Barr, the second from the House Republican Policy Committee, and the third last week's letter from three big-name Republican senators that they sent to the DEA. Recall, if you read our newsletter, you will have seen all three of these things in real time. Here's what Armentano's op-ed said in part. Cannabis is cultivated and products are manufactured in accordance with good manufacturing practices. Products are lab tested and labeled accordingly, and sales are taxed, with revenues being reinvested into the community. In 2014, retail sales of adult-use cannabis products have generated more than $15 billion in tax revenue. And of course, his op-ed was pushing back on all of the anti- or pro-prohibition measures or policy positions that have come out recently. Now, a people move to start your day. Aaron Gittleman, the deputy director for the New York State Office of Cannabis Management, is leaving his role for new opportunities, according to a LinkedIn post. There's a link to his LinkedIn post at cultivated.news. Recall that the Office of Cannabis Management is in the midst of a top-down review set in motion by Governor Kathy Hochul, and another top state cannabis official, Damian Fagan, was put on administrative leave recently following a story from the New York Cannabis Insider investigative reporting. So things are happening and shaking up at the Office of Cannabis Management in New York. That is it for today's Cultivated Live. We encourage you to subscribe to our daily newsletter at cultivated.news. Follow us on LinkedIn. Smash the subscribe button on YouTube. We will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on LinkedIn and YouTube, with Brad Spearson of Grown In to talk United States of Cannabis. This is our weekly policy/politics conversation at the intersection of policy, politics, and cannabis. Among the things we'll talk about, hopefully, will be what's happening in Germany. If there's any impact, we'll also talk about the latest and greatest from DC and around the US. So remember, on this Monday, April Fool's Day, buy cannabis at your local dispensary. No kidding. Have a good day, everybody.